Welcome to the bold analysis, back to Nairobi studios. And we have been following the Rigathi Gachagua impeachment. Thank you very much for those who reached out and have been telling me, Kevin, we are waiting for your analysis. So though I arrived late, I said I was following Rigathi impeachment, and I just want us to do a very critical analysis of that session. I have two interesting videos for you on day one of Rigathi impeachment. This is the first video, and in this first video, I'm going to look at that session from the start up to the time, up to the opening remarks. Then in the other video, I will try to analyze the cross-examination and what comes out of that exercise. Now, that cross-examination has gone late into the night. I think even now that I'm shooting this is now 10 p.m., 11 p.m. In the night, running in the night. So make sure you watch to the end. Ladies and gentlemen, the Senate session started on a wrong note for the deputy president. And when I'm saying a wrong note, I'm saying a wrong note because just an hour before the senators convened in the House, a three-bench judge was sitting just a few meters from the parliament buildings, and they sealed the fate of that impeachment. All the 26 unsuccessful attempts by the son of Madera to stop this impeachment from going on in the Senate. And the judges stood their ground saying they cannot meddle with that impeachment process. And in fact, their position was that whoever will feel injustice or will feel that has not gotten justice from that process have a liberty to go to court. And that is what the three-bench judge told the deputy president. So by the time Rigathi Gachagua legal team was going to parliament, I knew one thing, that Rigathi knows and Rigathi knew that his only hope now, as at this moment, is the Senate. So there will be an element of panic. There will be on how, so it was, and we were keen on how Senate, remember the whole country is looking at how Senate is conducting this exercise. And it is Senate vis-a-vis what happened in the National Assembly. Unlike in the National Assembly, where people are just shouting and just making noise and not even well organized, I think I found the Senate a bit more organized. But I was so curious to this closed session. It is called housekeeping session by the Senate. It lasted for more than 1 hour. They were supposed to, the place where they told the cameraman, the media and the members of the public to leave the chamber so that they could speak just out of camera. It took long, and journalists were saying that there was some really heated debate on how that will be done. But I will not want to delve more into that because that will just be speculative. Now, the Senate session started with some signs of bias, prejudice, and the ground was set out on how things will actually play out. And I made some few observations on this, and I want us to point out each one of them. The first one is how the Senate Speaker Amason Kingi gave his verdict on the objections that were raised by the Rigathi Gachagua's legal counsel. Last minute decision was made, and my governor, Governor James Orengo, was leading the National Assembly Council. Initially, the person who was supposed to lead that team was actually Otiende Amolo. But apparently, a last minute decision was made and Orengo appeared. And so the legal counsel representing the deputy president raised some objections, and they were saying that Orengo is a full a full-time state officer. So there is a constitutional provision that do not allow a full-time state officer to participate in such or in that political, in a gainful employment. And I realized the people argued on that. I want us to get some soundbite related to it before we look at other affidavits.
My learned senior counsel, Paul Moite, did raise an issue that we have an objection in terms of the appearances of legal counsel appearing for the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, sir, our objection is in line with the conduct of this House and the records bears as witness that we also have, we'll also be relying on an authority in our objection. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are raising an objection to the appearance of my senior advocate, legal counsel, James Orengo, to represent the National Assembly in these proceedings. And this is the basis of our objection briefly, that my learned friend, senior James Orengo, is a full-time serving state officer as per Article 260 of the Constitution, as read together with Section 26, subsection 2 of the Leadership and Integrity Act, which bars a full-time state officer from engaging in meaningful employment. Mr. Speaker, sir, it will be prejudicial to our client if this House was to allow my learned friend, senior James Orengo, to represent the National Assembly in these proceedings. Mr. Speaker, sir, just recently, this House, which is a House of record, we bear as witness that during the impeachment of the Deputy Governor of Kisii County, the County Assembly attempted to appear by legal counsel represented by one Honorable Soro. An objection was raised by my learned friend, Senator Chargei, which objection was sustained by this House. Mr. Speaker, sir, our objection is further premised in the High Court decision, that is High Court Constitutional Petition 204 of 2019, where Justice Ogola barred His Excellency the Governor of Siaya County from representing the then Director General of Kenya Port Authority, one Daniel Maduk. The judgment is before this honorable court, honorable House.
The affidavit was about new evidence. And remember yesterday, if you've been following this impeachment on Monday evening, there was that leaked affidavit by some gentleman on that Olive Gardens. So that affidavit, and I remember it was leaked yesterday. So even when Rigathi's team were calling it, it was a stray document. I really paid attention, because by yesterday this document was out, that this affidavit that is saying the deputy president sent someone to go and buy Olive Gardens, then the deputy president will buy that hotel from him, so that that person acts as a proxy. I'm not wondering, who is this proxy that will just expose himself as a proxy? Sometimes things don't even make sense. And then the National Assembly also requested the Speaker to issue summons to EACC, so that EACC can testify against the chairperson of the EACC, I think Twahib Mubaraka, if I'm not wrong, so that he can testify against the deputy president. And something that I really wondered here is, by the time you're going to court, you're the person that is supposed to prepare. Number one. And then it pointed into, and the Rigathi Gachagwa's team was saying, some of these things, some of these witnesses you guys are introducing, we had not been served. So if they are brought, there would be, would actually suffer prejudice. And to my surprise, Amason King, you know, there were 4 objections. One was on that new affidavit of that gentleman around Olive Gardens. There was that summoned by EACC, and then there was Orengo, and then there was some other document which the National Assembly amended. They brought in some document, some part that allegedly they had left out when they were doing paging. And all those was granted. Amason Kingi granted that on the National Assembly side. Now, when I realized there were 4, I was paying attention because maybe natural justice would have dictated that angepatiana mbili, some 2 concessions on the Rigathi Gachagua side and some 2 concessions on the parliament side, but on the National Assembly side. But of course, as things will be, to that extent, the speaker did not act, and or rather acted likely to suggest that he was going to lose his neutrality. Now, the jet in the house that I want us to look at is Orengo appearance. I saw lawyers commenting in Twitter, in social media, those who were commenting about this case, and they were against the decision by the National Assembly for Orengo to appear in this case. In fact, one of the lawyers, I think Jamudi, if I'm not wrong, Gubo, was actually saying that he is acting pro bono. So there is no evidence that is working to get some money, that Orengo is working pro bono. Of course, nothing far from the truth. But why did they have to bring Orengo? I want to believe this is a decision that was made at high table. What is, and first, just to give you a glimpse, I wanted to listen to a snippet of the speech of Orengo, of his opening remarks. And remember, he was given the chance to do the opening remarks, looking at the profile and the caliber of Leo Orengo is. And you also have to realize that you can also not underestimate the fact that Orengo is a strongest, most trusted ally of the deputy, of Raila Odinga, coming from the other side. So sometimes when you see Orengo, you see Raila. But I don't want to go there because it will be premature to go there. So listen to Orengo's speech.
So it should not be lost to anybody that the application of the Constitution in decision making is entirely in the province of the courts. This Senate, on this particular issue, you are seized of this matter. It is an exclusive jurisdiction that is granted to the Senate to undertake a trial for the impeachment and removal of a deputy governor or governor or deputy president or president. This is an exclusive jurisdiction that even the courts have spoken about many times. The courts can intervene in limited and justified occasions that merit their intervention. But it should never be lost that this is the trial court, if I may put it that way. And we also come here knowing that the Senate now is a repository of the law in regard to impeachment. All the cases involving the impeachment of governors and deputy governors that have gone to the courts have involved the participation of the Senate. So if ever we are to talk about a repository of the law regarding removal of state officers by way of impeachment, it is the Senate. And it should not be lost historically from comparative studies of various jurisdictions why this role in our constitutional design was left to the Senate. It was a decision by the framers of our Constitution that this should be an exclusive matter to be dealt by the Senate. Having said that, I was advised by the leadership of our National Assembly, who are our clients, to read a certain passage from the Bible. I think I have a copy here. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I had to carry this particular Bible. I was so advised. And this is, I read the Bible a lot to myself, but never in this kind of occasion. And this is the book of Exodus 22, verse 22 and 23. And I read both the St. James Version, which is the one I prefer because of the language, and from the Living Bible, which is in English is more appropriate. And I read, that is from the King James Version. Ye shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child, and my wrath shall wax hot, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall be widows.
So Orengo came and his speech was two things. Emotions, using that Bible verse on Muta Manyanganya widow, and then praising the Senate. And it was coming as person who is praising the National Assembly as the Senate, that they must rise to the occasion and will go on record as the first Parliament and Senate that impeach a deputy president in the country. I put my hands down and ask, on such flimsy grounds, even if you want to set a record straight, you want to write a record, do you need just to write a record at the behest of breaching the rights of an individual because you compromise a conscience to allow impeachment on such clumsy grounds? Is it about the law? And I think the presentation by my governor, to me, Orengo was there for politics of just elevating, just soothing the ego of the Senate. I will compare that with what Advocate Ongoya did. And from that, and even from Orengo's speech, it gave me a hint on why Orengo was called. Orengo was, I won't use the wrong word for lack of a better one, just allow me to use it. Orengo was a scarecrow that was introduced to elevate just the council of the National Assembly after they saw Paul Mwite on the other side. Let me tell you, Orengo is a renowned lawyer, and his credentials in the courtroom is something that is merited if you look at past cases that he's handled. So for Tham Wanjiru, for our parents, for people in the remote areas of some public, the public perception here is when you see Orengo, and you see like tomorrow Orengo is the person that I'm told is supposed to cross-examine Rigathi Gachagua. When you see Orengo as leading the team to impeach the deputy president, then from where you're seated, you can even give up. I'm glad, and interestingly, I think Rigathi Gachagua team, they didn't shiver. And someone was saying that Orengo is a spent country that he could not hang washtua. Aliletwa kuwashtua. And so by then we remember, and they knew that those objections would come, and I can tell you, even the legal counsel for the National Assembly, even Orengo himself knew that the objections about his appearance were valid and they would come. Quite a number of lawyers did not agree with that. Even some of the lawyers supporting William Ruto did not agree with the decision to introduce Orengo in that case. But that was one sign just to elevate the stature of that case. And also to send some shockwaves, to make people shiver that, okay, Orengo is there. You see Orengo, then you're like, hey, and they had seen Paul Mwite on the other end. The second reason, and this is also importantly, we said, and the impeachment is a political process. William Ruto successfully is dragging Raila Odinga in this impeachment. And if I choose to be wrong, then I can say that Raila Odinga is at the center of Rigathi Gachagua impeachment. Anyway, I'm not wrong. Why should I say I'm wrong? I'm not. For this impeachment to have reached where it is, for the 284 members of parliament, out of the 282 members of parliament that voted to uphold this impeachment, only 41 come from Mount Kenya. And less than 15 MPs from Azimio side, from ODM, less than 10. In fact, nearly all ODM MPs, except some 10 or 6 or so, did not support this impeachment. So the presence of Orengo, that to my end, it's also a political blunder. They said, and I think I tweeted and I said, amongst the 10 reasons why Raila Odinga cannot become a president is such mistakes. They didn't need to be in this. No. Raila didn't need to be in this. If there was something that he was, sometimes you need to be, you don't need to be very predictable. And this one, no. Raila needed to keep off. When you introduce Orengo in this, you bring ODM. Those are some things that some of you don't want to hear. But of course, that is what it is. Orengo was also showing significance in the national politics. Because I'm not just still a governor. I'm still here for the national politics. But of course, the big work for the Orengo is they were looking for the man that would cross-examine Rigathi Gachagua. Remember, Rigathi Gachagua is going to be the sole witness tomorrow. He is the witness tomorrow. So he's going to be cross-examined. And they realized that the caliber of lawyers that were already there could shiver or maybe could be compromised or something. So Orengo was brought because Orengo is a seasoned lawyer. And of course, he's in the caliber of cross-examining the deputy president. I repeat this. It was a blunder. And it is still a big blunder. I've seen questions by ODM senators in the Senate. And they're so really suggesting that ODM is at the center of this. And if ODM is going to carry this cross and William Ruto is going to take all this. Ruto is very quiet. The ODM team are leading. Yesterday, nilikuwa naona Peter Kaluma, I don't know who. They are the ones that are in the front. Like sometimes power is very bad. People forget so fast. So, that is enough with Orengo. That is why Orengo's appeared there. Now, there came the Ongoya opening remarks. On National Assembly side, it was done by Orengo. On this other side, it was done by Ongoya. Interesting thing. It's not very relevant, but of course very interesting. We are accusing Rigathi of tribalism, but the person who really nailed Rigathi defense comes from that other side. So I don't know, even if you talk about tribalism, some of these things are just utterances. And I should not belabor that. And I took the use of the stylistic devices called repetition. There is something in speech called repetition. And the good advocate used the word, I like the chronology from false to ridiculous to embarrassment, to embarrassing. So he already created a very good, he already created a checklist of what he was doing, and we're going to do the video on cross-examination. He created a template. He already created a template of what he wanted the country. So by the end of his presentation, the country need to look, and there's already, and the other thing with that, the use of the word that is very important. I want you to listen to a snippet of his speech, then I'll try to explain something about it.
One of the most frustrating things about preparing for such a hopelessly conceptualized, hopelessly crafted, and hopelessly presented case is that you begin doubting yourself, because you begin wondering, what am I not seeing? Land bought from a sitting member of the National Assembly in the year 2015 is supposed to be evidence that in the last 2 years, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua has amassed immense wealth from the office of the President to acquire that property. Now, let's look at paragraph 45G. You'll be told that His Excellency has acquired 80 acres of land in Meru County. No land registration number is provided. Not even an affidavit of a neighbor who says, I know yes, this land is my neighbor. Just an allegation by the mover of this motion like that. And the Swahili say, ukistaajabu ya Musa utaona Firauni. This mover of this motion stood before the National Assembly and said, just believe me for this statement as it is. The first joke. The second joke, the National Assembly actually believed him and approved the motion. You'll be told that paragraph 45H, that His Excellency has acquired a dairy farm in Nyandarua County. Now, I guess we all have a common understanding of what a dairy farm is. His Excellency has no dairy farm in Nyandarua County. The move of this motion does not give us any evidence of this dairy farm in Nyandarua County. You'll be told that His Excellency has used the office of the Deputy President to corruptly influence unnecessary and expensive renovation of his official residence in Karen and Mombasa. What will shock you is this, good people. The contract for the renovation of the official residence of the Deputy President was signed by the controller of Statehouse. Unless the move of this motion wants to make a claim that the Deputy President conspired with the Statehouse to have this contract executed. Number two, it will be known to all of us as members of Parliament that the money for renovation of this official residence was approved by the National Assembly. Is the National Assembly conceding that it approved money for unnecessary expenditure by government? How can the National Assembly approve money for use for renovation of the residence of the Deputy President, then after that money is used for the intended purpose, the renovation of the official residence of the President, now drag the Deputy President for impeachment for the reason of that renovation? I said it will move through the ridiculous to the embarrassing. You'll be told that the Deputy President has a helicopter landing facility at his land, Ruguru, Kiamariga, 1223 in Madira. The Deputy President simply has no helicopter landing pad on that farm, a small parcel of land with the napier grass, unless the mover of this motion can now convince us that new technology has emerged, that napier grass is the constructing material for landing pads for aircrafts. That's the only way it can make sense. But because it doesn't make sense, good people, you'll agree with me, it moves from the false through the ridiculous to the embarrassing. Now let's deal with it. You'll be told the Deputy President has amassed a wealth portfolio amounting to 5.2 billion shillings. Elementarily, we must then look at the particularization. Tell us which one is what plus which one is what plus which one is what to amount to this 5.2 billion. This figure, the origin, is only known to the mover of this motion. There is nothing on the body of the motion. There is nothing in the documents attached to the motion. There is nothing in the video clips to be played by the mover of this motion that tells us mathematically how he arrived at this figure of 5.2 billion shillings. Then when the charges were read, distinguished senators, you had some 22 companies being read one by one. Thank you. 22 companies. A number of things will surprise you. You'll just find a company listed called Spiritway Limited. Nothing in this motion tells us what wrong has this company done. Nothing in the motion, completely. It just listed there the way it is. Fortis Vis Group Limited. Nothing in this motion tells us what wrong has Fortis Vis Group Limited done. They're just companies whose names have been listed, and we have spent the taxpayers' money this afternoon listening to these companies' names being written with nothing in this motion telling us. So what wrong has Dorcas Rigathi Foundation done? What act are you complaining of for that company? What omission are you complaining of in respect of that company? Heartland Supplies Limited, you just find a name of a company there. No wrongdoing is alluded to it. No allegation is made against it. They're just companies thrown there. Distinguished senators, the Romans called their assembly, which was the equivalent of this Senate, the patres. It was an advisory council. That name was derived from an old Latin word meaning father. Senate derives its name from the Latin word senex, meaning old man. All these words are supposed to address the sagacious, the state of wisdom of the Senate. If this Senate lives true to its historical origin as the patres, if this Senate lives true to its Latin origins as the senex, the old man, the wise man, it will see through these lies, it will see through this ridiculousness, it will see through these embarrassing statements. If time were to permit, I will take you through other allegations that meet the same test of falsehood, ridiculousness, and embarrassment. Fortunately for us, the rules of procedure permit us to cross-examine the move of this motion and the respective witnesses as a way of bringing forth these lies much more clearly. We shall do that when the time presents itself. At the end of it all, we shall beseech you to do two things: to be true to your oath of office as senators, to be true to your oath of office as senators, to pour through this evidence, to listen keenly to this evidence, to make a decision premised on the evidence as tested here in cross-examination. And if you do that, we have no doubt in our mind, you will reach the same conclusion that what has been presented before you as a most consequential motion, perhaps in our lifetime, is false, is ridiculous, is embarrassing. I rest the governor's opening statement.
That is the Deputy President Council. It's not the governor.
Now, it's already sloganeering the innocence of the Deputy President. Now, these words are repeated on people's mind. And Ongoya used them countless times. He accused Mutuse of bringing false, ridiculous, and embarrassing. He called that, and he reduced those charges. He weakened those charges. So even Mutuse, before Mutuse took to the bar to defend himself, to speak about this, already he had really belittled what was happening in the National Assembly. Now, I want to say this. Now, this presentation, it really served a purpose. And I want to tell you it served a purpose. It instilled the confidence in the defense team of the deputy president. Why? Before the Senate started, he already had a blown coat. In fact, the newspapers for Wednesday had a very big screaming headline on Ruto, Rigathi haona giza. And I can tell you, look at Kenya Kwanza bloggers. They were all over. They're bombarding the social media spaces saying the way Rigathi Gachagua is going to leave Senate with Uber and it has been cast, Rigathi should resign. For the last 2 days, the state bloggers have been running a narrative that Rigathi needs to resign because his fate in Senate is sealed. In fact, to say the truth, Rigathi Council went to the Senate as underdogs. No one was expecting such bit. So that was very important to instill confidence, and he really managed to change the opinion of the country about this. Someone is saying, looking at what happened at day one, the Senate, if the Senate was to vote immediately after Ongoya, Rigathi would now be maybe holding some cabinet meeting. Significantly, Nairobi Governor Jameson Sakaja has chickened out. Jameson Sakaja chickened out of that impeachment process, and we were told he's somewhere in Europe. Why do you think he has left? Sensationally, the whole process will be a big flop with Sakaja in it. In fact, Sakaja would have ridiculed the process. And I want to put up a point. Sakaja Orengo, you know, how a governor who sometimes is always at the risk of impeachment is coming to support an impeachment of another leader, you know. So we were really waiting to see Sakaja trying to execute, to testify against the deputy president. He chickened out because he realized that he was going to the point of focus, and from there, it will still form, you know, his presentation, rather his testimony will be flawed. Looking at even the way those senators are not so much comfortable with him as a person. He's already a leader. Number two, we realized that the affidavits were just choreography. And if you are following this proceeding from the day one that Rigathi Gachagua did that press briefing, people have been condemning the last Monday, the press briefing that Rigathi did last Monday. And truth be told, it really formed the opinion of the country. If Rigathi, and he got the chance to speak alone and got the monopoly of the audience at that point, last Monday, that press briefing, much as many might see it it had its own ramifications. But if you ask me from where I'm seated, it really shaped the perception of the country. And of course, Rigathi has maintained consistently, from what he said, from the day he introduced the fact that all this which I'm being accused, some of these properties belongs to my brother, he has sustained that. And the public, unless he reaches some point tomorrow, then changes. But of course, it is something that you can see. The other thing, I think Nairobi governor realized that the political hygiene in Nairobi, in the complex Nairobi politics, is at stake. The Bobi Wine team were waiting for him. And he would have really been the point of focus. Because Nairobi is the tweeting general cell in Nairobi. I'm so sure Rigathi impeachment is being followed in Nairobi more than any other town in this world. So if Rigathi was going, if Sakaja was going to the Senate to impeach Rigathi, then it will really be a ridicule of the process. And so I've looked at just a bit of that. I want to stop at that because remember I promised you I have a second video where we are going to break down and look into what this is all about. We are going to look at the second bit on cross-examination, the conduct of Mutuse. Mutuse is trending on that, just conduct on cross-examination, and just more of that. But you can also tell me to that extent, amongst these things, these factors that I've mentioned, which one do you think is striking out for you in the first phase of that impeachment as I prepare the second video? Thank you.